Welcome back to a new semester of GWeek.
We're excited to be back after more than a year of virtual school. We can't wait to catch you up on what everyone's been talking about around campus.
In the months since we've been back, we've seen a memorial on the National Mall to the 600,000 lives lost due to the coronavirus pandemic, changes in COVID-19 protocols, and a major expansion to GW's Saferide app.
We'll also cover student concerns about mold in GW housing, the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan, COVID-19 vaccine and booster shots, and the 50th anniversary of the Kennedy Center.
Welcome to the show. I'm Anneliese Forlenza.
And I'm Katie Coolidge.
Multiple drug companies announced in a news release on Monday that a lower dose of the Pfizer coronavirus vaccine is safe for children as young as 5 years old. The dose is around 1/3 the amount given to adults and triggered a robust immune response in children. The finding is a major step toward a 2-shot vaccine regimen becoming available for younger children, perhaps close to Halloween. The companies must still prepare and submit the data to the FDA, a process they hope to complete by the end of September. With the school year in full swing and as cases soar among children, parents have pressured pediatricians with requests to bend the rules and give the shots out now. However, experts agree that parents should be patient and wait for appropriate approval and recommendations to decide the best way to manage their own children's situations.
In the case you've recently strolled past the mall, you may have noticed a sea of little white flags surrounding the Washington Monument. The project by artist Suzanne Brennan Furstenberg used 600,000 white flags to symbolize the American lives lost to COVID-19 during the pandemic. Spanning across 20 acres of the National Mall, some of the flags read personal messages from loved ones of those who passed away. In an interview with NPR, Furstenberg stated, quote, "I just felt as though someone had to do something to make a statement that with all these people dying, we had to value each of these lives as well."
With students returning back to campus and classes in full swing, apprehension regarding flu season, back-to-school sickness, and COVID cases is plaguing universities across the country. Americans must now face the efficacy of their vaccine and the potential for booster immunization shots. Reporter Claire Leibowitz has more.
With many citizens getting fully vaccinated these last 8 months, everyone's own COVID guard slightly lowered. But recently, it feels like more and more fully vaccinated individuals are getting COVID. No vaccine is perfect, and breakthrough cases are not uncommon. For example, someone can still get the flu even after they've received their flu shot. Why are breakthrough cases on the rise? The increasing number of new variants. The Delta variant is more infectious than others in the past, and while antibodies in the vaccine work against it, they may not be as effective in fighting the original virus. A challenge with the virus from the beginning has been that it evolves and changes into variants that can be more viral, spreading faster. COVID in general is easily transmitted too. The vaccine will not make you 100% immune to getting COVID, but it will lighten your symptoms and lower your risk of hospitalization or death, according to the American Medical Association. They state, while people who have been vaccinated are much less likely to get sick, it will still happen in some cases. In May, the CDC found that out of the over 100 million people who got vaccinated, there were only around 10,000 individuals with breakthrough cases. Dr. Sanghavi, an internist at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, states that most breakthrough cases will be asymptomatic. Around 25 to 30% of patients with breakthrough infections are asymptomatic. 50 to 60% of patients have symptoms that are more mild and still may not need hospitalization. For 90% of patients, the breakthrough case has mild impacts, but for 10% of patients, it can be more dangerous. Overall, no vaccine is perfect. The efficacy of Moderna and Pfizer falls in between 94 and 95%, and Johnson & Johnson falls in between 74%. The efficacy also depends on the individual patient, according to Dr. Sanghavi. Those who are immunocompromised or have pre-existing conditions have a higher chance of getting COVID, even if fully vaccinated. We talked to students in Kogan about how they're feeling about being back on campus and if they've experienced breakthrough cases or exposures themselves.
I received the Pfizer vaccine.
I also received the Pfizer vaccine. I do feel more protected, but now with the Delta variant, I'm kind of like still doubting if it still protects as much as they say it does.
Last semester, I was definitely extremely cautious and I never really went out. This semester, now that I think it was required to have the vaccine on campus. I know some people have exceptions. I feel a lot more safe.
Yeah, I received the Pfizer vaccine. I am concerned with breakthrough cases to a degree. I'm glad that the severity of it will be lessened if I do get it. I will get a third booster shot if it becomes available, if it's authorized, approved in the United States.
I think I will say yes, but I'm really scared of the side effects because I had really strong side effects for the second dose, so I'm really scared about those if there ever comes like a third dose.
If you or someone you know have been in recent contact, please schedule an appointment to get tested through the Colonial Health Center portal. For those experiencing symptoms of COVID, please seek tested locating in the University Student Center. Those who are not experiencing symptoms can get tested on the trailer located on H and 20th Street. Please be aware that if you do not get your next COVID test before your next due date, your access to campus will be limited to your residence hall, parking garages, testing sites, and dining and delivery services if applicable. Reminder that CVS is also open 24 hours for your cough drop and hot tea needs. Stay safe and healthy, GW. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Claire. Stay tuned for more after the break.
Universities like George Washington play a critical role in hosting debate and discourse on events of the day.
The right answer is not to refuse the other. The right answer is not to say, get rid of this religion. It's not part of us. It's wrong.
I think that the story of America is a story of race. So when I think of the questions that I'm asking or the stories that I'm going to write, I'm thinking, okay, well, what are we learning about our country?
Well, I think the likelihood of him being indicted is close to 100%. There was a lot of hurdles that had to be cleared in order for that to happen.
One of the reasons that Donald Trump is president is because there is such a frustration with the way that Washington functions.
Sympathy is one thing, but empathy is the language of recovery, and it's something that's, without a doubt, instilled into every person that's in recovery.
It's never lead with the positive, it's always lead with the perceived negative.
Well, that is part of the problem. I mean, I actually would agree with you on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One of the things that we have seen that is most under siege in this country is the notion of civil discourse, and we here at GW, among other things, very much want to stand for that.
This is truly an only at GW moment.
As GW prepares for its Century Celebration Weekend, October 1st through the 3rd, the university announced updated coronavirus safety protocols in an email on September 16th. All guests, regardless of vaccination status, will be required to wear a mask for all indoor and outdoor events, except when eating or drinking or maintaining social distance. Additionally, every participant is required to provide proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test result dated no more than 72 hours before their arrival. The event is honoring both GW's bicentennial and a belated commencement for the classes of 2020 and 2021 after the coronavirus pandemic delayed both graduations.
Student concerns have grown over increasing mold reports at George Washington University. With over 175 students evacuated to hotels due to health risk in school buildings, many are wondering what the school's next steps will be. Izzy Angeli has a story.
175 GW students have been evacuated from their townhomes due to possible mold exposure on Townhouse Row, which houses Greek organizations on campus. The issue is currently being investigated by GW's Safety and Facilities Division. For now, students are being held at hotels across the Foggy Bottom and West End area, but prior to that they were given a 4-hour notice before they had to evacuate. There have also been transportation buses going back and forth between Townhouse Row and these hotels. Students reported feeling ill, some even requiring medical attention. According to the George Washington Office of Ethics, Compliance, and Privacy, the humidity of the District of Columbia provides an environment in some buildings for mold to grow. Reports of black mold have brought concern for the GW community. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention states that black mold can cause symptoms such as stuffy nose, wheezing, and red or itchy eyes or skin. For those with pre-existing health conditions like asthma, the health effects can be more severe. GW hosted a virtual town hall meeting in order to provide information about the health concerns and answer questions for those evacuated. However, according to posts made by a GW student on the Overheard at GW Facebook page, the town hall ended an hour early and many questions remain unanswered. We spoke to Helena Bach to get more information about her experience with mold in her townhouse.
To my knowledge, mold has always been a problem at GW, but in the context of the townhouses, it has been an issue pretty much since I moved in on August 9th. I personally have not seen mold in my townhouse, but we definitely noticed a lack of ventilation, especially in the bathrooms. And I also noticed leaks in my ceiling as soon as I moved in. I made Fix-It aware of the issue, and they came several times to check up on it. But because the leak only occurred when it was raining, there was nothing they could really do when they came. So to my knowledge, that leak has not been fixed and could potentially be one of the sources of water infiltration. I know Fix-It is really understaffed because of some layoffs that happened amidst the pandemic. I told them where it was coming from and I took a video, but obviously there was no hole or obvious crack in the ceiling, so it was difficult to see where the water was coming from when it wasn't raining.
But when we reached out to Division for Student Affairs on September 16th, we were given a statement by official university spokesperson Crystal Nozal, who said that, quote, GW takes all requests of this nature seriously and responds to the ticket promptly, end quote. She also said, quote, no systemic issues have been identified to date, end quote. Reporting from Washington, D.C., I'm Izzy Angeli for GWeek.
Thanks, Izzy. It's that time of year again as the Wharf hosts Oktoberfest on October 2nd from 2 to 5 p.m. The German-inspired day of food and fun was missed last year because of the coronavirus pandemic, but has returned this year with several crowd-filled favorites. Events will include a DJ on District Pier, the German Fair and Stein hoisting contest, and where you'll find me, the 9th annual Wiener 500 Dachshund Dash. Definitely don't miss out, and if you have a Dachshund, sign them up to race. I'm planning on stealing a Dachshund from the finish line.
I will follow in your footsteps. Do you have a name plan?
I think Schnitzel would be appropriate.
I think that's fitting.
We'll be back after a quick break.
This isn't just our battle cry. It's our call, our challenge. Because when you were called to Washington, you were called to higher expectations, to a higher standard. We are called here to advance knowledge, to serve society, to change the world. Is that too lofty? Too aspirational? Is it simply too much to expect? Not if your classroom is a Smithsonian, the IMF, or on the doorstep of the Supreme Court. Not if you have access to the most hallowed institutions and formidable leaders. Not if you are given the tools to change minds, shape laws, influence entire fields of study, advance our way of life, change the course of history. From the nation's capital to the four corners of the earth, to far below the surface and far beyond our atmosphere. Here, unique opportunities, the ones that many people work much of their lives to get, are within your reach from the moment you arrive. This is where you find new pathways for preventing global epidemics, where your unexpected friend propels a new scientific movement forward. This is where you push forward as a team to break records and reach new heights. Where your classroom is 68 square miles of the most consequential land on Earth. This is where you will make it happen. This is the George Washington University, and what we make is history. So stand up, be bold, take risks, press on, push harder, raise high.
Welcome back to the show. According to CNN, France and President Emmanuel Macron were blindsided by the United States after Australia pulled out of a $65 billion submarine deal with France earlier in the month. The United States did so in favor of a new agreement with both the U.S. and the UK, known as the AUKUS. It aims to supply Australia with technology to construct nuclear-powered submarines, which are considered to be superior to the submarines that the French would have provided. Australia revoked their deal with France last minute because they were concerned the submarines they had ordered from France would not meet their strategic needs. According to CNN, French Ambassador Philippe Etienne said they were not given any indication of this change in plans, even when they met with the Australians just days before the deal with the US and the UK was announced. In a reaction, France recalled their ambassadors from both Washington, D.C. and Australia. However, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison stands by his action and said he understands France's disappointment, but, quote, Australia's national interest comes first. According to BBC, both President Biden and Macron are looking to, quote, move forward from the situation.
After 20 years of war in Afghanistan, U.S. forces withdrew from the country, leading to a swift Taliban takeover. Following what many are calling a botched withdrawal, a handful of U.S. states are receiving Afghan refugees who managed to leave before the August 31st deadline. Here's reporter Zilana Lee with more details.
Mayors and governors across the United States are preparing to receive a number of Afghan refugees. California is receiving the largest amount with over 5,000, and Texas is receiving the second largest amount. While the immigration pathway is still unclear, over 37,000 refugees are preparing to come to America. I sat down with Benjamin Hopkins, professor at GW and historian specializing in the history of Afghanistan, to discuss the U.S. and Afghan relations in light of this crisis.
What we're watching is a catastrophic American failure for which Afghans are going to pay in the main, but also American society is going to be on the hook for. And what we've seen over the past month is the shambolic withdrawal of the United States from its obligations in Afghanistan by the Biden administration, the collapse of the Ghani government of Afghanistan, and the ascendance, or rather seeming ascendance, of the Taliban as the controlling faction of Afghanistan today. The catastrophe we are watching continue to unfold in Afghanistan is a cross-party, cross-branch phenomenon. The Biden administration, while culpable, is no more nor any less culpable than the Trump administration, or the Obama administration, nor the Bush administration, which started this war back in 2001. And I think it's also very important, because we focus so much on presidential administrations in the United States, to note the failure of Congress. At no point since the American intervention in 2001 has Congress, or more broadly the American political class, taken this war seriously and focused on it earnestly. On the issue of Americans remaining in Afghanistan, while I think it's an important issue, I also think it's both a distraction and somewhat obnoxious, because the real victims in this entire thing are Afghans themselves, and not only the Afghans that were able to get out, but at best, we were able to pull out maybe 100,000, and that leaves 36 million people under a new Taliban regime. In terms of looking forward in future relations, I think future relations are less important than coming to grips with the cost of this war. This has been a generational war, and generational wars entail generational costs. There has been no serious discussion in this country about the effects of the war on Afghanistan itself, which has largely been destroyed by an ongoing 43-year war. The Americans only have been involved for 20, nor has there been any sort of recognition of the cost of the war to this country. This is the most expensive war in American history. It's been wholly debt financed. In many ways, it has hollowed out our democratic institutions. It has created a pipeline of militarized policing on our streets, where the tactics and material used to police the American population in cities was beta tested on Afghanistan. Nobody is talking about that. This war has undermined American democracy without us even knowing it.
I'm Zilana Lee, reporting for GWeek.
Thanks, Zilana. In other recent news, financial markets were rocked earlier this week by one of China's biggest property development companies, Evergrand. The conglomerate company, founded by Chinese billionaire Zhu Jian, was once the country's richest man. The Shenzhen-based company indirectly sustains more than 3.8 million jobs a year. They are primarily real estate developers. However, they are involved with electric vehicles, sports, and theme parks. In recent years, the company's debt has increased substantially as it borrowed money to finance their activities. Holding more than $300 billion in liabilities, the company warned this past week that it may default on that payment if it's not able to raise money quickly. Earlier last week, Wall Street had a moment of panic when realization hit that Evergrand's default could potentially ripple throughout the markets. While things have calmed down for the moment, we will wait to see as Beijing announced it is hesitant to bail out the developer and has asked local governments to prepare for Evergrand's downfall.
Hi, Colonials! Did you know there are hundreds of ways for you to volunteer with GW? Each year, over 1,500 alumni, parents, and friends contribute thousands of hours to make our community stronger. There are countless ways you can volunteer, so it's easy to choose an opportunity that is most meaningful to you, like connecting with students and alumni based on your student involvement, identity, or personal interests. getting involved with your local alumni network, mentoring a current student via our online mentoring platform, connecting with prospective students through undergraduate admissions opportunities, serving on an industry network leadership council, becoming a social media ambassador. The list goes on. No matter where you are in the world or how much time you have to give, you can connect and volunteer with GW. And the best part, it's easy to get involved. Just visit alumni.gwu.edu/volunteer to learn more about these and other opportunities. Because of your service to GW, you are able to make a direct impact on the lives of former, current, and future students. We look forward to working with you.
Welcome back. On Thursday, September 23rd, the Hatchet announced that GW Saferide, GW's free ride-share service, is expanding its drop-off areas to include the Lincoln Memorial, 2400 M Street Apartments, and the Flats at DuPont. The expansion comes after Student Association Vice President Kate Carpenter conducted a survey around campus to gauge support for the expansion. The service can be assessed between the hours of 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. It can be downloaded in the Apple App Store or on Google Play by searching GW Rider.
The Environmental Protection Agency issued regulation last Thursday reducing the use of hydrofluorocarbons by 85% within the next 15 years, as reported by CNBC. HFCs often appear in refrigeration and air conditioning and previously replaced chlorofluorocarbon, a chemical from the 1980s. The potent chemical has contributed to the drastic heating of the planet, and the reduction of HFCs, quote, could avoid up to 0.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century, according to the EPA. Estimates from the EPA predict that the agency's rule will also reduce around the equivalent of 4.7 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide by mid-century, CNBC reported. The regulation will start next year and marks the Biden administration's first major action on the country's greenhouse gas emissions.
After kicking off their 50th anniversary celebrations on September 14th, the Kennedy Center will continue to host several events in person throughout the next few months, from live music to exhibitions and community activities. Reporter Giovanna Lino has the story.
I'm Giovanna Lino reporting at the Kennedy Center to take a closer look at the 50th anniversary celebrations.
The Kennedy Center is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. The center is known as a creative hub of artistic pieces and serves as a memorial to JFK. Since its inauguration, the center has created a national cultural community around the United States, and now 50 years later, it is celebrating its anniversary with diverse events during the months of September and October. The first concert took place on September 14th with the relaunch of a live full-scale production. The kickoff of the season will begin with the 50th anniversary celebration concert on PBS on October 1st. The event will be hosted by six-time Tony Award winner Audra McDonald and will have special guests attending. It will also feature the National Symphony Orchestra, directed and choreographed by Emmy Award winner and Tony Award nominee Joshua Bergassi. On Saturday, October 9th, the artist Mo Williams will create the We Are All Connected public art playscape on the Reach Plaza that will remain installed during the 50th anniversary season. Also on October 9th, the artist Tariq Black Thought Trotter will host an intimate conversation about art, inspiration, and creative mindset with award-winning photographer Devin Allen. Finally, on October 28th to October 30th, Jean-Pascal Toterlier will conduct the premiere of En Otra Noche en Otro Mundo, an NSO co-commissioned by a Puerto Rican composer. The program will be paired with other excerpts from orchestra. To participate in the events, everyone should respect COVID-19 safety guidelines. In addition to showing an US-issued ID with your name, you will need to prove that you are fully vaccinated with a physical or digital copy of your vaccination card under the same name. Also, indoor masks are required except in indicated areas for eating and drinking.
For GWeek, I'm Giovanna Lino.
Thanks, Giovanna. Well, that's all we have for you this week. After being virtual for more than a year, we are thrilled to be back in the studio.
As always, check us out at gw-tv.com and on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you around campus.